Hi, everybody. It's Erica from In the Company of Cards. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to all of you who've been here with me for a while, and welcome to those of you who are new here. You know, I checked, I never do this, but my book is now a year and a half old, and I don't always check the stats, but I did check the stats the other day just to see how it was ranking. And oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure it's YouTube people who are blowing it up. So if you've not seen it, it is The Language of Lenormand. You can get it anywhere. It will teach you how to read the cards that I read for you here. And it teaches in a very, well, I teach in that book in a very friendly way. So anyway, thank you for those of you who have picked it up, have sent me emails telling me how much you love it. I'm thrilled. My whole goal in starting this channel was sort of twofold. One was, of course, to do this kind of political and social commentary in these difficult times we're living in. But the main goal was to introduce a whole new audience to card reading as divination, Lenormand particularly, and to show you that, you can access these tools as well. You are as much a magical person as I am. So, you know, I'm delighted that people are getting Lenormand decks. Doesn't have to be mine, but there's lots of beautiful decks out there and are picking up the book. I happen to think my book is the best. Just because I was a teacher for 30 years and I know how to scaffold learning so that you are biting off just a little piece at a time until you realize, oh, wait a minute. I ate a full meal and now I can read Lenormand. That has been my whole goal. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your support, all your many kindnesses to me. Uh, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, all of which is free, grows the channel. And so I really appreciate it. Okay. So I think this will be probably short and kind of a targeted thing. I'm not going to do like I usually do, which is look at a bunch of disparate issues. But something that's been on my mind is the fact that lots of people, well, not lots, but several people have asked me to look at June 14th. I'm not going to look at that, by the way, not yet. June 14th is you know whose birthday. It's also Bastille Day. Oh, the irony. And he wanted to have, when he was last in office, a military parade in honor of his birthday, like with huge, heavy tanks rolling down Pennsylvania Avenue and tearing up the streets. So he was told, yeah, no, that's not a good idea. So it didn't happen. But we are in a new era here. And so people, for some reason, seem like extra concerned about whether there will be a military parade for his birthday on June 14th. I'll look at it when we get closer to the day. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. But I think there are things that we need to look at that are more important right now, and which are coming at us way quicker than June 14th. And that is April 20th. So, April 20th, some of you know it as, uh, you know, Smoke Out Day. Some of you know it as Hitler's birthday. And it is the day that 47 has decreed that he wants a report from whoever he's getting this report from, about whether the time has come for him to, um, think about imposing martial law. Now, what would that mean? Well, one of the things that it would mean is that it would, I actually wrote down a few things that it would mean. So it means Now, well, what it would be doing would be suspending something called the Posse Comitatus Act. The Posse Comitatus Act blocks the military from being involved in civil law enforcement, right? Posse Comitatus Act says the military is the military, but we have civil authorities who keep the peace in peacetime stateside. So we don't need the military to be doing that. Okay. But he is wondering whether he can suspend the Posse Comitatus Act and impose martial law. Um, and what would that mean? Well, one thing, here's first thing. I wrote down three things that it could mean. One is it means that the army could do door-to-door searches looking for undocumented people. So that's one. Two, the Coast Guard could more aggressively patrol the border. Uh, Three, and this is what's important. Three, the Marines could shut down legal protests. Now, why am I saying that is so important? Well, the day before the 20th is the 19th, and April 19th is the next scheduled mass day of protest. I want to just say a word about these protests. Lots and lots of people came out. It was terrific. I've had people say things to me like, well, it didn't change Trump's mind. It didn't change the Republicans' minds. I think that the real point of it was to get people fired up, to help people understand that they have a voice, and that they should make their voices known, and that there's strength in numbers. I think it is critical that people came out. I think it is critical that Black people stayed home, not just because we deserved to, because we did deserve to, but also strategically. Because, as I said, one of the things that suspension of the Posse Comitatus Act would do uh, in allowing 47 to declare martial law, let me say it again, Marines could shut down legal protests. One of the things that 47's been doing to Black people is rage baiting us, but with all this disappearing of us from the public sphere, right? In jobs, uh, in the written lore of the country, meaning books, textbooks, from museums. I mean, it's pathetic, right? But part of it is because he and his Project 2025 people hate us, and we're aware of that. Um, but you know what? I forgot to turn. Hold on a sec. I'm going to turn that mail thing off because it's kind of loud. One is to let us know that he hates us. But and then the corollary is to make us hate him back and want to howl in the streets, so that he can say that we're being violent and we can be arrested and hosed and bitten by dogs and all of that. Notice that there was nothing like that this past Saturday. Is it because white people are intrinsically more peaceful and more, I don't know, whatever in their protesting? No, I think it's just because you were white people. If you were white and you were out there, you will have noticed that the atmosphere at these protests must seem pretty much, I would call it celebratory. And listen, I am no shade. I think that's great. But it was a celebratory thing. Look, we are raising our voices, we are showing our signs, we are expressing our disapproval and dissatisfaction and all of that. And here we are all together out here in the streets. Isn't this great? That was the vibe. That vibe was not diluted, we'll call it, by our presence. Our presence, just our presence, our existence in these events on the streets as visible Black people would have changed the response. You would have seen police. You would have seen armed police. And you would have seen violence not perpetrated by us, but perpetrated by the police. So I'm going to suggest that on the 19th, we might want to stay home as well. Again, and I'm talking about Black people, stay home as a strategic assist to the people who will be in the streets. I think there's much less chance that he will want to call out dogs and water hoses and tear gas on white people than on Black people, whom I'm pretty sure he agrees are at the most three-fifths people, not wholly human. So I'm going to suggest that for the foreseeable future, Black people, we stand down because what he wants is for us to not stand down, for us to be out there loud and in the streets so that he can impose martial law. The experiment that I'm looking forward to seeing is, would he actually declare martial law if the great majority of protesters are white people? Hmm, I wonder. Hmm. Now, the protest is the 19th. Okay, the 20th is the day after. The 20th would be the day that he gets this report. And of course, people already know when they do reports for him, they already know what he wants them to say in the report. He wants to be given the power to declare martial law should the mood strike him on any given day. So hopefully, momentum will stay high. Hopefully, the 19th will be even bigger than the 5th was. And hopefully, Black people will stay home. Uh, Now, so I guess the question is, at some point from April 20th onward, will he declare martial law? I think I'll use the letter for that because it would have to be a declaration, right, that he signs saying martial law. Now, another thing, um, if we were, let's say, attacked by some foreign entity, uh, whether it's a foreign entity that got the urge to attack us or whether, I don't know, a foreign entity got the okay from 47 to stage something, well, that would also be grounds for him to declare martial law. And I want to say something about martial law, but first I want to look and see whether he will. I know he wants to. That's not the issue. The issue is, will he declare martial law? You know, you've got the Supreme Court looking kind of like they might want to back him in this Venezuela rendition to El Salvador thing. That's not good. Amy Coney Barrett voted with the women, but Roberts did not. Roberts said, yeah, for the time being, you can do that. They need to have, well, see, there's a catch 22 before I look at this martial law question. There's a catch 22 that 47 has set into place. I think it's really smart. Of course, this is not so much him, it's probably the Nazi Stephen Miller, entertainment purposes only, who came up with this. But what the law says is that people who are going to be deported like that need to have fair notice that that is the government's intention. And then they need their day in court so that they can make a case for why they should not be deported. Now, what's happened, of course, is that these people were seized, swept up, and then taken to a foreign country. So here's the catch 22. The government will say, well, I mean, yeah, they should have had due process, but oh well, too bad because I mean, they're not here now. And if they're not here now because we moved them to El Salvador, um, I guess, they missed that vote, so to speak, and they can't get due process because they're not under our jurisdiction. Now, if that's not a catch 22, I don't know what is, you know. And is the court going to be cynical and agree with him and say, oh, yeah, but from now on, listen, anybody that you want to, no. I mean, is the court going to say, you can spirit people away in the middle of the night or in the broad of daylight? That's fine. And take them to a foreign country. And by the way, this would not be limited to just um, uh, undocumented people. I mean, it's a slippery slope. Maybe there are Americans that he feels are, you know, inappropriate in terms of their critiques of him. And maybe they'll get rendered to a foreign country with a foreign jail and a president who's willing to take $6 million for them. Slippery slope. So, but anyway, that's a different story. But let's look at martial law. I'm going to use the letter for the declaration. Will he impose martial law? At some point, I'm going to say this spring. Okay. And at some point, it would be after April 20th. Okay. So we're looking for the letter. There it is. All right. So we have the lily, we have the tower, we have the declaration of martial law, we have the stars, and then we have the woman card. I'm going to have to pull clarifiers because, um, he would argue that it would be keeping the peace, that the government has the right to do this. But the fact that this second card is mirrored by the star makes me think that it won't happen anytime in April, even though he wants to have done it yesterday. Um, all right, so let's pull some clarifiers and see what we get. Will he declare martial law in at some point? Okay. So we have this lily card. This is the card for peace, right? Oh, I'm trying to keep everything peaceful, is what he'll say. The clarifiers are the clover, the ring, and 47. I mean, he wants to do it in every moment. Like I said, he wants to have already done it. He's very sloppy like that. He's impulsive. That's the clover. He's impulsive. And I think he's asked over and over and over, can I do it now? Can I do it now? Can I do it now? Okay, so let's see. Second card is the tower, and we have the whip, we have the mice, and we have the fox. There are experts who are telling him, yeah, do not do it. Experts in the government telling him, don't do it. It would instill fear in people. Now, granted, I mean, he's okay with that. But when you want to instill fear, you want to wait for the right moment. Like, I'm not saying that people in the government are against it. Certainly, the Project 2025 people think it's great, but you have to pick your moment for when you're going to instill fear in people. This would be the order, and the clarifiers are the house, the mountain, and the tree. I think he will be put off, put off, put off, put off, put off. And I'll explain a little bit about that in a second. Here we have the star, which is the card for the future, and the clarifying cards are the anchor, the scales, and the young man. Again, I feel like this is urging temperance. Take your time, just wait. Now, this card is interesting because, well, uh, he's impetuous and he wants to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. So he has tempering influences on him. Hold it, not yet, wait, be judicious about this. Finally, we have the woman, we have the birds, the scythe, and the dog. There's a lot of women, by the way, who will be out in the streets and have been out in the streets. Probably, I'd argue probably more women. I mean, I didn't take a poll or anything, but I suspect there were probably more women out there on the 5th last Saturday than men gathering. Do you really want to hurt them like that? I thought you were their friend. I'm gonna, what did he say? I'm gonna protect women whether they like it or not. Well, declaring martial law and getting the Marines out in the street to enforce the no protest thing, I don't know, that's not very friendly, is it? So I think he will be held off from that urge, that impulse. Maybe they'll distract him with a different shiny thing, like his birthday military parade down Pennsylvania Avenue. Ever. Now, let me say another thing about this martial law thing. So, when you declare martial law, you're calling out the National Guard, among other things. But there's a way to um, circumvent that. If governors of states were to call out their own National Guard, the federal government cannot repurpose them for a different agenda. So, for example, what would happen is that governors of, I would say, places like California, New Mexico, um, Arizona, for example, what they could do is call out the National Guard under some pretext. So the pretext or pretense, not even a pretense, a pretext. And the pretext would be to supplement the work of the CDC or supplement the work of FEMA, both of those organizations that help people in times of need that have been cut and just shredded by Doge. So governors of those states could say, oh, yeah, I'm calling out the National Guard so they can help with FEMA relief here. They can help with the CDC measles outbreak there. If those National Guard troops are deployed in that way, the federal government cannot say to those states, excuse me, we need them over here for border control. They can't do that. Or we need them over here for martial law. They can't do that. They can't repurpose National Guards people who have already been deployed by governors for a certain task. So that's an ace in the hole. I think that's something that really to bear in mind. I think that's a good thing to know. Um, what else do I want to look at? So again, April 20th is the day that 47 will get a report that will let him know whether or not he would be legally justified in declaring martial law. April 20th is the day after April 19th. So what I'm going to do is let's look at April 19th. April 19th is the next National Day of Protest. If I remember, I'll put a link up to where you can click on it and find a local protest in your area. If you're Black, stay home and drink your water. Uh, by the way, I think I'll say this. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to say I've had several white viewers, male and female, say they're having a hard time understanding something and they hope I can explain it to them. And the question was, can I explain to them why there would be Black people who voted, quote, against their interests for Trump instead of for Harris? I am not the Black explainer for white people. That's not my intended role here. What I would say is worry about the 52% of white women and all of those white men who voted for Trump. Those are your people. Maybe you should turn your attention to why they voted. Uh, and was it against their interests? I don't know. They would probably say it was in their interests. I think your attention is probably better focused there than in asking me to be the white explainer. I mean, the explainer to white people of Black people's motivations. I'm not here for that. I'm not going to do that. So anyway, I suggest that Black people, as a point of privilege and as a strategic technique, that we continue to stay home. Let the understudies handle this, as I wrote in my Substack. How will April 19th go? Now, the reason I'm curious is that, you know, I'm sure a lot of people were charged up and energized by what happened on Saturday, as they should have been, despite the fact that legacy media did not portray these demonstrations as being as large and powerful as they were. That's an interesting thing to think about. Why was that? Like, why were they downplayed in traditional legacy media? If you really wanted to see the scope of things, you had to go to someplace like, I don't know, well, Rachel Maddow, she's on Legacy Media, MSNBC, so I'll give them a pass. But you'd have to go to Midas Touch, for example, to really see the hugeness of these protests. So why was Legacy Media downplaying it? Very interesting. Who's being bought and who's bought and paid for? Um, but anyway, uh, I think strategically we should stay home. But I'd like to know how will it be on the 19th? Now remember, it's the day before the 20th, the day before 47. We'll get his permission, probably, right, to declare martial law whenever he wants. Um, how will the 19th go? And I think for that I'm going to use the garden. The garden can be a large gathering, and this will stand for all of the large gatherings around the country on the 19th. Will people be able to keep up the momentum? Or will they say, well, wait a minute, I was out there and I protested for like 8 hours and it was rainy or it was cold or it was sunny and hot and it didn't work. This is the long game. How many people don't understand what the long game means? It means not today, not tomorrow, maybe not in your lifetime. You're promised the war, not the win. And how many people are going to say, oh, well, forget it then? Or how many people will say what I think they should say? This is my life's work. This is right now my life's work. I don't know. We'll see. I think it will be a terrible thing, for example, if not as many people come out on the 19th as came out on the 5th. That will be a message. 47 will say, all we have to do is wait them out. And we're good at that. We're good at buying time. So let's see. So we're going to use the garden and we're looking at how the 19th will be because that's coming up. Okay. The garden will stand for all the protests that will be taking place on the 19th. Can I pass it? No. Okay, so this stands for all the protests on the 19th. You know, the last thing I said, this is what I was worried about. So we have the whip, we have the anchor, the garden, the clouds, and the tree. Why do we read cards? Because we want to know what things are written in stone that can't be changed. Wrong. We look to see what the trajectory is, what the probabilities are. And if we see a probability and we like it, that's great. But if we see a probability and we don't like it, well, we can change it. But the probability is exactly what I said. So here we go. So the whip, this is sort of constant agitation, repetition. With a whip, you don't just whip one time. You whip and you whip and you whip and you whip. And there's a rhythm to the whipping that you do over and over and over again, like protesting on the 5th and on the 19th, and 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that. Okay. This effort has to be sustained. That's the anchor. It has to be sustained. Center card is all of the demonstrations on the 19th, but look what we have at the end. Clouds and tree. In other words, it's doubtful given the current trajectory. And again, we can change this if we want to, or you all can change it if you want to. It's doubtful whether this effort can be sustained for the long term. People would say something like, well, I mean, I did that 2 weeks ago. You know, now I'm going hiking with my family, or now I'm gonna work overtime, or now I'm gonna Netflix and chill. This is a very slow card. And again, Americans like things quick, fast, and in a hurry. And if they don't see a return on their investment quick, fast, and in a hurry, they can get bored. Or they can say, oh, this is not working. That's the danger. So I'm glad that I'm doing this reading because if you don't like that outcome, I don't like that outcome. If you don't like that outcome, change it. And how do you change it? By getting steam up to do this again, and then again, and then again, and then again. Those of us who are of a certain age, of course, remember both the civil rights demonstrations and we remember the Vietnam demonstrations. We remember the demonstrations about divestment in South Africa. It was not a one and done thing where every time we went, it was or the one time we went, it was like a festival, a picnic, a circus. No, there were times when we were out there in the rain and in the snow and in the heat, and it wasn't fun and it didn't feel comfortable, but we did it anyway. Uh, if this is allowed to be the thing that is the result of these demonstrations, if this is what happens, people say, "Oh, that's not working," and then can't hold on for the long haul. Well, then America gets what they deserve. I'm just saying. Uh, so, stay inspired, stay encouraged, uh, stay hopeful, stay strong. Uh, those of us who are Black could tell this story 10 ways to Sunday. The question is, are the rest of you, do you have the intestinal fortitude to go the distance? The trajectory says not. Prove the trajectory wrong. Shift the trajectory. Now, how can we tell? One of the things I'll do is I'll come back in a week. Well, I mean, I'll be here before that, but I'll look at this question again right before the 19th. I'll ask the same question. I'll use this as the focus card and see where we are, and then see whether these two cards or the equivalent are the same or whether we get different energy. This is the long game. This is the long game. All right, I'm just going to leave that here for now, but I will be back very soon in the week with another edition. Happy Tuesday. You take care. Bye bye.